You ever wonder why some women can walk away from a man and suddenly he's obsessed, calling, texting, watching her stories like his life depends on it, and yet you've been kind, consistent, giving him your best, and somehow he's still taking his sweet time to miss you, if he ever does at all. It doesn't seem fair, right? But here's the truth. Missing someone isn't triggered by how much you give, it's triggered by the space you leave. The real trick to making a man miss you like crazy isn't about mind games or manipulation. It's about creating emotional gravity. It's about becoming the kind of woman whose absence leaves an unmistakable void. Not because she played hard to get, but because she wasn't afraid to be hard to forget. When you stop showing up just to remind him of your worth, and instead become a woman who lives like she already knows it, that's when things shift. That's when he replays your laugh, your voice, your touch, not because you chased him, but because you made it clear you don't chase anything that doesn't chase you back. If you're tired of waiting for him to finally notice what he had, let's change that story. Let's show you how to turn your presence into power and your silence into a statement. Here's how. When you want someone to miss you, the instinct is often to do more, text more, show up more, give more of yourself, in hopes they'll finally realize what they have. But ironically, that constant presence actually works against you. It's not your attention that sparks longing, it's your absence. The first key to making him miss you like crazy is pulling back your energy and becoming comfortable with emotional distance. That doesn't mean giving the cold shoulder or being passive-aggressive. It means being intentional about where your energy flows and recognizing that your attention is a privilege, not a given. When you step back, you create space. And in that space, something powerful happens. He starts to feel the contrast. The version of you that was always available, always there to reassure him, suddenly isn't showing up in the same way. That absence isn't empty. It's loud. It speaks volumes. He feels the gap, and in that gap, he begins to remember everything you brought to the table, your laugh, your care, your presence, that once felt routine, suddenly becomes noticeable by its disappearance. Now, most people struggle here. The urge to reach out, to explain why you're pulling back, to keep the connection alive, that's normal. But if you give in, you steal the moment from him. You rob him of the chance to feel what it's like without you. Think about it. If you keep showing up to remind him how great you are, he never has to do the emotional work of remembering it on his own. But when you stop filling the space, he's left to feel the loss. And if you mattered, he will feel it. It's about turning off the emotional faucet. Maybe you used to initiate conversations, check in on how his day was, or send sweet goodnight texts. Now you pause. You don't rush to keep the spark alive, because your new belief is that if the spark only lives through your effort, it's not real anyway. And here's what's wild. Men are wired to be drawn toward mystery, challenge, and depth. When you stop being predictable in your availability, you trigger that curiosity. He starts wondering what's going on with you, what you're thinking. If you've moved on, that curiosity turns into desire, and desire turns into missing you. But there's a catch. You can't fake this. You can't step back from him while obsessively checking if he's noticed. This only works when your detachment is genuine, when you actually start focusing on your life, your goals, your joy, not as a tactic, but as a choice. When he sees you shining without him, thriving in your lane, not posting thirst traps, but genuinely enjoying yourself, that's when he feels it. That's when the weight of your absence sinks in. You must become comfortable with the idea that if someone doesn't come forward to claim the space you've left, then they were never meant to fill it in the first place. You're not stepping back to get him to chase. You're stepping back because you've realized you don't want to keep handing your energy to someone who's unsure. And that self-respect, that's magnetic. He may not even know why he suddenly starts thinking about you constantly, but he will. And when he does, it won't be because you tried harder. It'll be because you stopped trying at all. This is about reclaiming the value of your presence by giving it sparingly, with intention, and only to those who earn it. Let him sit in the quiet. Let him hear the echo of what used to be your voice, your attention, your love. If he's meant for you, he'll come looking, and if not, you'll already be too far ahead to care. One of the most powerful and underrated tools in making someone miss you is the art of unpredictability. When someone can predict your every move, your every reaction, your every message, they stop feeling the need to be engaged. Human desire thrives in uncertainty. It's not chaos, it's mystery. It's the difference between being a routine and being a riddle. And if you want to be unforgettable, you can't be someone he figures out by the end of the first chapter. You need to be the story he keeps reading, because every page has something new. The moment you fall into a rhythm that's too familiar, always texting first, replying immediately, always saying yes, he stops having to earn any of it. It becomes expected. The dopamine hit he once got from seeing your name on his phone screen dulls because now it's constant. And anything that becomes constant becomes invisible. What once excited him now blends into the background. That's why unpredictability isn't a game, it's a recalibration. You're removing the script so he has to actually pay attention. This doesn't mean playing childish mind games or being hot and cold. It means keeping your life in motion outside of him. One day you're free, the next day you're unavailable. Not because you're trying to be difficult, but because you actually have a life that doesn't revolve around him. When you live like that, unpredictability becomes natural. He can't just assume you're there anymore. He doesn't get to rely on your emotional consistency that makes him sit up and notice. Think about how he treated you when he first started pursuing you. Every message you sent had weight. Every moment you were available felt special because it wasn't a given. There was energy, there was effort. The reason that dies in so many connections is because one person starts showing up 100%, while the other relaxes into receiving. When you shake that up, by stepping back, being less predictable in your energy, it reignites that original tension, the good kind, the kind that sparks attraction and curiosity. Let's be clear, unpredictability is not cruelty. It's not ignoring someone out of spite. It's showing that you are not on standby. You are not available at the snap of a finger. You are not a predictable reward for inconsistent behavior. The right person will respect that, and the wrong person will be confused and maybe even irritated because they're not used to earning someone's attention. Either way, it tells you something valuable. There's also something wildly attractive about someone who surprises you. Not in big theatrical ways, but in small, intentional shifts. Maybe instead of sending a goodnight text like usual, you leave it. Maybe instead of replying in seconds, you take a few hours and spend time doing something for yourself. Maybe one weekend you disappear into plans, offline, enjoying your life. No explanations, no updates. You let him sit with that. You let him feel what it's like not knowing what you're doing or who you're with. Not in a manipulative way, but in a way that says, I'm not yours to assume. I'm not yours to expect. I'm not the same pattern you got comfortable with. That space you create becomes the canvas where he paints his own emotions. He'll think more, wonder more, imagine more, because now you're not feeding him a steady stream of information. You're not offering constant validation. And what happens when someone doesn't get what they're used to? They start craving it again. That craving becomes the hook. Not because you gave more, but because you gave less, strategically, consciously, respectfully. Do you want him to miss you? Stop being the girl he can predict. Be the woman who keeps growing, evolving, and showing up differently, because she's not here to be decoded. She's here to be discovered, piece by someone who chooses to stay curious. When you think about what really makes someone miss you, it's never about how much time you spend with them, it's about how they feel when you're gone. And one of the most powerful ways to linger in someone's mind is to leave behind a distinct emotional fingerprint, an energy that feels warm, rare, and hard to replace. Most people chase attention, they try to be seen, to be noticed, to be chosen. But the real impact comes when you stop trying to be everywhere and start focusing on being memorable. Because when you leave behind a feeling he can't find in anyone else, that's when he starts missing you in the deepest way. This is where emotional energy comes into play. It's not just about being fun, flirty, or supportive. It's about how you make him feel in your presence. Safe but challenged, appreciated but not idolized, understood but still intrigued. Most people offer the same emotional energy over and over again, validation, flattery, or attention, and it becomes noise. But when your presence offers something he doesn't get anywhere else, whether that's your confidence, your lightness, your standards, your peace, it imprints on him. He can try to distract himself, but he won't find that same energy again. This is why it's so important to cultivate a powerful internal world. The more grounded you are, the more emotionally regulated, the more joyful in your own space, the more others feel that. He starts to feel different just being around you. Not because you're doing anything specific, but because your energy tells a story. I'm okay with or without you. And ironically, that's the energy that draws people in like a magnet. It's calm, it's confident, it's self-sufficient, and it's unforgettable. When he leaves your presence, whether it's for an hour or a week, that energy doesn't just disappear, it lingers. He'll replay things you said, he'll wonder how you managed to be so open yet so mysterious. He'll remember how it felt to laugh with you, or how easy it was to be vulnerable around you without judgment. And as he interacts with others, he'll start noticing the contrast. Others might be more eager, more available, more validating, but they won't feel like you. And he'll know it, even if he can't put it into words. Now here's the key. You don't have to force this. You don't have to perform. You just have to own your energy and stop diluting it for approval. That means pulling back when your presence isn't appreciated. That means not over-explaining, not over-giving, not over-fixing. That means letting your silence speak for you when your words would fall on deaf ears. Because when you hold your energy with reverence, others start to do the same. And when they lose access to it, even briefly, they realize just how much it meant. The truth is, anyone can be physically present, but emotional impact is rare. And once someone has tasted yours, the way you made them feel calm in chaos, seen in confusion, empowered in their doubt, they don't forget that. They'll seek it. They'll search for it. And when they realize it's not something they can just find again, that's when they start missing you. Not out of scarcity, but out of deep emotional resonance. So if you want him to miss you like crazy, don't try to impress him, win him over, or force connection. Instead, refine your energy. Be the presence that uplifts, centers, and challenges in all the right ways, and then withdraw just enough to let the absence echo. Because when you stop flooding him with your presence, that's when he starts drowning in the memory of it. One of the most overlooked reasons someone starts to miss you deeply is because they realize you're no longer emotionally available to them. Not cold, not bitter, but unavailable. And that distinction matters, because what keeps people comfortable, even when they're not investing, is knowing that your heart is still tethered to them in some way. It's the safety of your attention, the ease of knowing they could reach out at any moment and you'd respond. The moment you pull that emotional energy back, without drama or noise, just with quiet certainty, the game changes completely. Men are more perceptive than we give them credit for. They can feel when your attention has shifted. They can sense when your energy is no longer circling around them. That doesn't mean you're being rude or passive-aggressive. It means you've reclaimed the emotional space they used to occupy. And because people are addicted to validation, it doesn't take long before that absence starts to itch. They wonder where your affection went, where your texts disappeared to, why you're not viewing their stories or sending those little check-ins. And if there was a genuine connection between you, that absence doesn't just itch, it burns. But here's the beauty. You don't have to announce this shift. You don't have to post quotes about moving on or drop hints about how good you're doing now. That's performative detachment, and it's rooted in still trying to be seen. Real detachment is quieter. It's when you're too focused on yourself, your joy, your peace, to need to prove anything to him. You start showing up differently, not with bitterness, but with boundaries. Not with hostility, but with clarity. And he'll feel it. What makes this shift powerful is that it's not reactive. You're not pulling back because he disappointed you. You're pulling back because you finally saw the pattern and decided it no longer serves you. That's what creates emotional mystery, the kind of emotional void that makes someone lie awake at night wondering how they lost your softness, your warmth, your time. And when they do reach out again, they're not greeted by the same emotional access they used to enjoy. There's a space now, a filter, a pause. You've stopped being a given, and that contrast alone is jarring. Now don't mistake this for playing games. This isn't manipulation. This is alignment. You're simply removing yourself from a dynamic where your value was being consumed, not cherished. And that withdrawal speaks volumes. It sends a message without saying a word. You no longer get the best parts of me just because you had access once. And that's a message that lands far deeper than any argument or emotional plea ever could. People don't miss what they took for granted until it's no longer there. They don't realize how much they relied on your presence until it vanishes quietly. And because the ego hates to lose its supply of validation, he may come back, not always out of love, but out of confusion, pride, or even fear. But that's not your job to fix or entertain. Your job is to stay grounded in your worth and make sure that if he does come back, it's not because he misses the idea of you, it's because he finally recognizes the value of you. So when you truly want someone to miss you, let your absence teach what your presence couldn't, not by disappearing in anger, but by elevating in silence, not by withdrawing to punish, but by returning home to yourself. Because when a man feels the shift of your energy, when he senses the emotional door has quietly closed, it creates a void that no one else can fill. And that's when the longing truly begins. Confidence isn't about pretending you're unaffected. It's about being deeply rooted in your worth, even when you feel the ache of missing someone. One of the most magnetic, unforgettable things a woman can do is choose herself, especially in the aftermath of someone pulling away. When you shift from wondering what he's thinking to actively investing in your own life, your energy transforms. And that transformation is what he notices most. It's not your silence, it's not the space, it's the fact that you're thriving in that space, not suffering from it. See, people don't just miss your words, they miss your vibe, they miss the feeling they had when they were around you. If that feeling was rooted in your neediness, your emotional dependence, your constant availability, it becomes forgettable. But if it was rooted in your passion, your confidence, your joy, that's the kind of presence that lingers. That's the type of woman who's impossible to replace. So if you want to make him miss you like crazy, the best trick isn't to vanish, it's to evolve. Most people think distance creates desire. That's only partly true. Elevation creates desire. It's when you take that pain and alchemize it into purpose. You become harder to reach, not because you're avoiding him, but because you're growing at a speed he didn't expect. And people feel that. Suddenly, he sees the version of you he took for granted becoming more radiant, more powerful, more unreachable, not because you're playing games, but because you've stopped waiting and started living. This doesn't mean posting a highlight reel on social media to prove you're over him. That's still rooted in trying to show him something. It means creating a life that's so rich and fulfilling that whether or not he sees it becomes irrelevant. The irony is that's exactly when he starts seeing it. He starts sensing that you're no longer emotionally orbiting around him. You're no longer waiting for breadcrumbs of attention or clinging to hope, and that contrast shakes him. Imagine he reaches out after a few weeks of silence, expecting the same energy he used to get. But instead, he finds you calm, kind, but detached. You're not cold, you're just whole. That's the moment he realizes he's not just missing you, he's missing the version of himself that felt desired by you. And now that you're no longer offering that freely, he begins to chase the feeling that used to come so easily. That's not about ego, it's human nature. The woman who knows her worth is unforgettable because she doesn't need to prove anything. Her actions speak louder than her absence. She doesn't punish him with silence, she elevates herself through it. And that shift in dynamic, where she stops being emotionally available, yet remains emotionally intact, is what creates a haunting presence in his mind. He remembers her not because she begged or waited, but because she became someone he can't quite reach anymore. That's what it really means to make someone miss you, not by withholding love to manipulate, but by overflowing with self-love so abundantly that it fills the void he left behind. And when that happens, he may come back, he may try to reclaim the connection, but by then, you'll be standing in a new version of yourself, one that doesn't need him back to feel whole again. And ironically, that's what makes you the one he can't stop thinking about. The sixth keynote revolves around the idea of cultivating an irresistible sense of self that makes him realize what he lost, not through desperation, but through your authentic growth and confidence. It's about shifting your energy from seeking his attention to becoming the woman who commands respect and admiration simply by being herself. This isn't about playing games or trying to manipulate his feelings. It's about understanding that your true power lies in how you carry yourself, how you honor your worth, and how you allow yourself to thrive independently of his presence. When a man leaves, especially if he chose someone else over you, the natural instinct might be to chase, to prove your value, or to convince him that you're the better choice. But this keynote encourages you to resist that urge. Instead, it teaches you to redirect that energy inward, focusing on becoming the best version of yourself, not for him, but for you. This transformation creates a magnetic pull that no one can ignore. Men don't miss a woman who is desperately chasing them. They miss a woman who's living her life fully, glowing with confidence and radiating self-respect. This process starts with acceptance. You acknowledge the reality of the situation without bitterness or resentment. You understand that his choice reflects more about him than about your value. It's not about proving him wrong, it's about proving to yourself that your happiness and self-worth are not tied to anyone else's decisions. By embracing this mindset, you take back control of your emotional state, which is incredibly attractive because it signals strength and independence. Next, you invest in yourself. This means setting goals, pursuing passions, and nurturing your emotional and physical well-being. You cultivate interests outside of the relationship, expanding your social circle, learning new skills, and focusing on what makes you feel alive and fulfilled. When you're busy building a meaningful, joyful life, you naturally become more interesting and appealing. This growth isn't about showing off or trying to make him jealous. It's about genuinely enriching your own experience, which in turn raises your energy and aura. Alongside personal development, you practice healthy boundaries. You stop responding to every message or attempt at contact out of obligation or hope. Instead, you prioritize your peace and well-being, communicating only when it serves your dignity and self-respect. This doesn't mean you're cold or indifferent. It means you understand your worth, won't settle for less than you deserve. Boundaries create space for healing and reflection, allowing you to detach emotionally from the outcome and protect yourself from unnecessary pain. Another crucial aspect is authenticity. You don't pretend to be someone you're not to win him back or to outshine the other woman. Instead, you embrace your quirks, your strengths, and even your vulnerabilities. Authenticity is magnetic because it shows confidence and comfort in your own skin. When you're genuine, you attract people who appreciate the real you rather than a facade. This is what makes him reconsider his choice. Not a game, but the unmistakable truth of who you are. The transformation also involves cultivating a sense of mystery and intrigue. Without playing manipulative games, you create a natural allure by living your life with passion and purpose, sharing only what you want to share and not rushing to fill every silence or explain every feeling. This space allows him to wonder, to question, and to realize what he lost. Mystery here is not about withholding or being elusive. It's about honoring your own emotional economy and not giving away your energy indiscriminately. Finally, the keynote emphasizes patience and trust in timing. You don't force or rush anything. You understand that genuine change and growth take time, and that the best form of revenge is your happiness and success. When you embody your worth and live your truth, the universe naturally aligns opportunities, including the possibility of him recognizing what he lost. But if it never happens, that's okay too, because you've reclaimed your power and learnt that your value is not dependent on anyone else's validation. This keynote teaches that the ultimate way to make him feel the difference is not by focusing on him, but by focusing on yourself. When you prioritize your growth, your peace, and your joy, you become unmissable, not because you're chasing attention, but because you've become the woman no one can replace. This kind of transformation isn't just about getting him back, it's about becoming the woman who knows her worth and never settles for anything less. When you stop trying to chase, convince, or cling, and instead focus on embodying the value you bring, everything shifts. He begins to feel the absence of your energy, not because you played a game, but because you remembered who you are. You're not here to be chosen by someone who can't recognize your worth. You're here to live so fully, love yourself so deeply, and grow so brightly that anyone who once took you for granted is left wondering how they ever let you slip away. That's the kind of power that makes someone miss you, not out of manipulation, but out of realization. And when that moment comes, you won't need their validation, because by then you'll already have become the person who no longer waits to be seen. You'll be too busy shining